Today we're going to go over equation as functions and function tables. Also on here I will note we will also do the vertical line test too. That's also included in what we're doing. Functions. So a function is where each input, x, has only one output, y. If there are repeating x values, then the y values must be the same as before, or it is not a function. So think of it as a soda machine or a candy machine, right? If I hit a certain button, I am going to get the same, or I'm going to get an output, right? So if I hit button number 1 on the machine, and so number 1 will give me, let's say it'll give me a Coke. Button 2 will give me a Sprite. Okay, button 3 can also give me another Coke. I can have that, that's perfectly fine. But if I hit number 2, I always should get Sprite. I should not hit button number 2 and get a Coke. That's what we're meaning. So for every here, this will be my x values. What I get is going to be my y value. So other than seeing it on a graph, you are going to see function in ordered pair, see it as tables, or see it in some sort of mapping. So some examples of each of this for a function and then for not a function. So ordered pair, you could have 1, 3, 2, 3, -1, 7. These would be, so since I have my different x values, that would be a function, that relation here, this group of coordinates. Even though my 3 is being repeated, it's a y value. That does not matter. Remember, I can have Coke on different buttons on my machine. That is fine. But the x value has to be unique. One way you're going to see them try to confuse you is you are going to see something like 1, 3, you might have 2, 3, you might even see -1, 7. Maybe also here again, they're just going to repeat a coordinate. So pay attention, because if you're just looking at all of the x's and you realize, oh, this x right here repeats, the y value is still the same. So they just copied this again. That is still a function. An example of one that is not a function would be 1, 3, 1, 2, maybe 7, 4. Okay, this is not, because this x has a different y, so that would be not a function example. Now for our table example. So here's my x column. I have -1, 0, 1, 2. Well, none of my x is repeated. So even though my y repeats, that is perfectly fine. The machine could be completely filled with Coca-Cola. Doesn't matter what button I hit. That's what I'm going to get. As long as when I hit this button, I will get that output. An example of not a function when it comes to a table. So 1, 2 gives me 7, 3 gives me 8, 3 gives me 9. Okay, I don't want to hit number 3 on the Coke machine, get a Coke the first time, and if I hit 3 again to get a Coke, and this time I get a Sprite, nope, that is not a function on a table. So that's what you're going to pay attention to. The last representation you'll have is mapping. So you will see some type of little diagram like this. it'll be labeled what the x values are and what the y values are. Now, if it is a function, if, again, the x value are all different, or if they do repeat it again, so pretend this little diagram keeps going, it went bigger, and I had another 1, as long as that other 1 went to another 7, that is perfectly fine, and that is still a function. Something like that is very common how they will try to trick you. But what is not a function is if I have the x values going to different y values. So if 1 goes to 7, 2 goes to 8, and then 2 goes to 9. Okay, this right here is not a function. Okay, a way to look at a graph to find out if the graph is a function. So you have the vertical line test, and it's kind of just like it sounds. It is a vertical line test. So if a graph is a function, it will pass the vertical line test. This means that any vertical line drawn on the graph at any section of the graph will only intersect the graph once. If it intersects more than once, it is not a function. So let's see how I can draw this here. So if I draw a line on the graph, vertical line, so vertical up and down line, anywhere on this graph. Now, it only intersects, it only goes through the graph once at one point. So it goes through once here. So it connects here, 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 and here. Those only. So this is a function. Okay. Now, let's see. Check this out. So, I would, if you see a graph and you are trying to figure out, is this a function or not? I would hold your pencil to the screen, up and down, and move it across it. If at any point your pencil goes across more than one point of the graph, it is not a function. So this one right here in the middle is. Now, let's look at this last one. Going across the graph from left to right, notice how my pencil little lifesaver stick thing is going through 2, or if it was taller, right here, 3. So more than one section of the graph at a time. Over here, it's only going through 1. If this line was drawn out more, only here it'd go through 1. But at this point, it is going through 3 sections. So this is not a function because it failed the vertical line test. And then the middle one, again, notice how it's only going through 1 point at a time. This is a function. And that is the vertical line test. So whenever you see a graph, though, that says, is this a function, take your pencil vertically to the screen, go across, and see in the entire part, is there only one section that the vertical line will meet.